Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me. My name is Mark Husson, and I am an astrologer, and we're going to talk about Leos today. Now, hopefully, we're getting into this rhythm where you understand that we're dealing with the seasons. And we started with spring and the three components of spring, which have cardinal, fixed, and mutable, which is the beginning, cardinal, fixed, the middle, and mutable, the end. Okay, and then we start over cardinal, fixed, mutable for summer. But what does also happen is we have four elements to contend with, and they also repeat. So cardinal in spring is fire, right? So it always goes fire, earth, air, water. Always fire, earth, air, water. Always goes cardinal, fixed, mutable. All right, so then you go cardinal fire, fixed earth, mutable air, then cardinal water, then fixed fire. That's the one right up. So water, then it starts over. Fire, and it's going to go earth, air, water again. So now we're in fixed fire, and that is the sign of Leo. Okay, so let's talk about this fixed fire. Nothing is more perfect than the image of fixed fire being the sun, right? The sun is fire that is just there. It's capable of warming you. A stove, the light on a stove, the heat, the radiation, right? So we talk about Leos in a way where they radiate. It's ruler of the heart, so they have this radiance. Leos can bring sunshine into a room. We're going to talk about their personality in a minute, but let's talk about the makeup and a little bit of the mythology. The mythology is basically around Parsifal and the Holy Grail, and in that story, I'm going to really simplify it. Parsifal was kind of naive. He didn't have a father. He lived with his mom. He joined this group of knights. He was rash and brash and not very thoughtful. And he gets a vision of about this castle and this grail and this old king, and he really wants to find it. Takes him years and years to really understand maturity and growth. And he eventually finds it. And it turns out that the king that he saw in the vision was his grandfather, who taught him so much about the world. He inherited it all, blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, the reason I want to break down that myth to show you some of the components of Leo, some of these things psychologically. Leos come into the world with a real sense of self, a sense of spirituality, a real deepness to them. They kind of lose it quickly because life takes over. And one of the things that is the metaphor for Leo is that the father figure, and it doesn't have to be the actual dad, it could just be somewhere in them. They have a propensity not to hear how good they are, not to hear their value, not to hear their worth. And so they tend to look outside here into the world to get their value. And that becomes the symbol of the absence of an inner father, an absence of an inner voice that says, hey, you're okay. I like who you are. You're the best. A lot of Leos didn't hear that. That's why they come in as Leos. It's ironic because Leos get accused of having a giant ego, right? Like, because it's always about me, me, me. But what's really happening is they don't have much ego at all. So they're looking for the reflection out here of what you think about them and what the world thinks about them. They can walk into a room and immediately spot how people feel about them. And wherever you have Leo in you, there's a couple of things that have to be built. The sense of self, the sense of identity, the sense of being able to self-nurture, to self-okay yourself, and the absence of a voice that sort of helps you do that. And like I say, as we go deeper into astrology, we're going to learn somehow how to see that in a chart. Now, Leo, like I said, rules the heart. And if you ever were with a Leo, you can see that when a Leo is happy, man, the sun is shining. They are just happy. They're beaming. They bring joy to the room. However, when they're sad, when they're not happy, that same joy turns into an overcast day, an overcast cloud. And that has a lot to do with Leo misinterpreting so much about what people are thinking of them, or inserting themselves into this evaluation of who they are, and in a sort of constant way. It's the search for identity. And what happens, Leos start out young with this real sense of spirituality, and then as they mature, what you notice in mature Leos is this identity returns. They realize that people are going to be rude and it has nothing to do with them, or that they may not actually be so needing to see what people think of them, to have a sort of independence. And that's true growth for Leo. It's a beautiful evolution you can see. Now, remember that Cancer rules the moon, Leo rules the sun. These are the two luminaries, and they're right next to each other. One could say that Leo is about the father, which we know it is, right? And Cancer, we know, is about the mother. So it's interesting to have those two next to each other, working together to help us understand our nature and who our parents are inside, who our internal parents are. So if you know a Leo, if you have a Leo around, one of the things that you have to understand is their quest to wonder who they are to you and what's going on in your life about them is simply a struggle to understand their own voice inside that tells them that they're okay and that they have a right to be here and that they are good and they are wholesome. Now, remember, when I say the father, it's not necessarily all fathers of Leos, even though that's a good target. But because Leo comes in with this propensity to not hear that, like they have to develop that. So if you wanted to develop an identity, one of the ways you come to the world as a human is you come in with a crippled sense of identity. So you can build that, right? So if you're trying to build something, you're trying to learn something, and Leos are trying to learn that sense of self of they are good at something, that they are worthy just because they are. The highest form evolution for Leo is mastery of something, to be able to to be so good at something because they stayed with it, that fixed fire, the ability to stay with a project or learn a skill. So a lot of them are master craftsmen. A lot of them take something so they stay with it so much that they become so good at it, whatever it is that Leos choose. So I hope that helps you understand, Leo. We're going to get into what it means to have it as a rising sign and a moon and to have it in your chart. So much to cover, so much fun. Nice to take it in small doses. I'll be back to talk about the sign after fixed fire, which is mutable earth. You have a beautiful day. Thanks for listening. Take care now.